I'm not going to take any more of his time in introducing him, other than to tell you that I'm assuming that all of you historians are able to read this biography in this book. He's a great military historian, as a great author, and as a selling point, he has a series of books, and your library is so full that you don't want any more paper books or hard books. And if you're like me, if you need to increase the size of the print and use Kindle so you can read it, you can order his books on Amazon by ebook, by Kindle. So I present to you Erick Nason.
Well, good evening, everybody. I have been asked to come down here because we believe that you may not have gotten all the information that's been going on in 1775. Because we all know you can't trust the news, because you don't know who's running the printing presses anymore these days. And you can't trust word of mouth, you don't know which side they're on. They're for us and the Patriot side, or those supporting the king. So I have been asked by my leadership to come down here to let you good folks know what's really going on, because you may not have known the truth. Or from the simple reason, you didn't hear about it because we kept it quiet. We didn't want to draw attention to ourselves. Now, we knew a war was coming. I mean, it was obvious. We knew it was coming. Lieutenant Governor Bull knew it was coming, and the king definitely knew something was up. We could not draw attention to ourselves because we were not ready yet. We have much to do before it happens. So we all know how fast news travels around here, right? Have you heard of this little place up north called Lexington and Concord? Ah, good. But do you understand how it happened? Do you know why it happened? See, it wasn't an isolated event. For the simple reason, we stole the mail. We read the letter that King George sent to his royal governors. This is how we knew that he suspected that we were growing in strength. He ordered all the royal governors to secure their powder magazines, pull in all the muskets to make sure that we would not get them. So what do you think some guy was hanging out in the Old North Church on a Boston night with 2 lanterns? I guess you would say he liked the nightlife. Why were there riders out there waiting? Because we knew they were coming. But they weren't the only ones. Lord Dunmore had already moved his powder magazine out of Williamsburg, but he put them on warships out in the Chesapeake Bay. In Charleston, Lord Governor Bull decided, well, the best way for me to keep an eye on them is to put them in the attic of the State House. So that's where all the muskets went. So up there in Boston, General Gage decided he's going to try to be sneaky. They'll go at night, crossing the bay, so no one could see him coming, except for the guy up in the tower. Hangs his lanterns. And like we said, we started 1775 with a bang. What you would say the shot heard around the world. But for us in Charleston, no one heard a thing. For only 2 days later, the night of April 28th, we had decided, because every colony had its own secret government, its own committee of safety. We also had our own committee of correspondence. We were talking to each other. We knew this was about to happen. So within this secret government, this council of safety, I believe the esteemed Mr. Lewis heard him talk about this morning. You hear some very familiar names like Henry Lawrence, Lytton, Benjamin Huger, Christopher himself, the man, the myth, the legend, and even Lieutenant Governor Bull's nephews were involved. William Bull and William Henry Drake. It was Charles Pitney, though. He was the actual one in charge. They came up with this bold plan of not only are they going to take the muskets, oh no, see, you can't just have muskets, you need to have the gunpowder to go with it as well. A three-prong operation. And they also knew what's at risk. Because we're no longer hoping peace through diplomacy. Oh no, dear friends, we are way past that point now. All us old professional soldiers know what's going to happen next. We must prepare for war. We need arms, and we need powder. So not only did this committee think it up, no, they led it themselves. If they're going to put their men at risk, because this is plain up, straight, overt traitorism, hanging offense. If they're going to put their men at harm's way, they are going to lead it themselves. So just about midnight, they took their cars, they arrived in front of the State House, which happens to be across the street from what you would call the police station of the city, the Watch. They went upstairs into the attic, and there, under lock and key, for a moment, were the muskets. In the morning, they found the door wide open, not broken into, not chopped apart, the lock nicely opened. Somehow we were able to secure a key. It had nothing to do with potentially Mary, who worked for the lieutenant governor at the time, because she never admitted to anything. Now, while this is going on, again, 800 stands of muskets are being brought downstairs, 800 cartridge boxes, 200 swords. Longboats are leaving Gadsden's Wharf. One is heading up the river to go to one of the places where they build the ships. The other one's going up to Hopcaw Creek to get the gunpowder. Now, unfortunately, we think one of our associates may have gotten a little braggedy in a tavern one night under too much spirits and rum and let the cat out of the bag. Because when they arrived up at the shipworks, they opened up the armory and no gunpowder. It's all gone. Somehow I knew it was coming, but no one was waiting for them either. They went to Hopcaw Creek and secured over 1,100 pounds of gunpowder. And what's so unique about all this was not a single witness. No one saw a thing at 11 o'clock, midnight, in a city, all these carts going in various directions, all these men bringing down 800 muskets right across from the main watch of the city. No witnesses. So Lieutenant Governor Bull comes down to the State Assembly and goes, "There's banditry in my city. What are you going to do about it?" So like any good organized government official, they're going to form a committee and research it. Just happened that some of the conspirators are on the said committee. And after about a week, they came back saying, got nothing. No one came forward, no witnesses. Even when they offered over 100 pounds sterling for information, no one came forward. But the State Assembly did say, like, wow, we may not have found any witnesses. We understand why this may have happened. We have been getting a feeling from the local population that they may not be happy with what the Crown is doing to the population. And then word did get down to us that the shots have been fired at Lexington and Concord, that no more. We are now war footing. We must be ready to defend Charleston. So they resolved to form the regiments of foot. The 1st and 2nd regiments are to be regular line infantry. The 3rd to be a mounted rangers, because we're still concerned about the Cherokee to the north. So now that we identified that we're going to have the regiments, we got to pick the officers. So the State Assembly's elected. Of course, Mr. Rutledge is there. Goes, all right, we're going to pick that. The 1st and 2nd regiments, they selected the commanders. Colonel Hugie would be commander of the 1st regiment. Colonel Moultrie, the commander of the 2nd regiment, and Danger Thomas will be in command of the 3rd regiment. How do you fill the captaincies all these officers who are going to lead the companies, they voted on the state assembly. Who were these gentlemen? Well, like anything here in South Carolina, they're all well known. A lot of them are landowners. Some of them were combat veterans who had served in the previous war. And some were both. Well-known landowners, but also had combat experience. Everyone always asks, you know, with 20 captains all being elected at the same time, who's number one? Who's number two? Who outranks who? Easy. Number of votes you got. Bernard Elliott, who would be the commander of the Grenadier Company in the second, was number one. Charles Pinckney, or Christopher Gadsden, excuse me, number two. Francis Marion would be number five. Those is how they figured out their hierarchy. So out of the 20 captains, 10 of course will be assigned to the first, 10 will go to the second. Great! We have a unit. We have officers. We have 0 men. We're off to a good start so far. So all the company commanders are told, you must go and recruit your own men. Easy, right? Patriotic fever. Everyone's just lining up to sign up to join the army. Not really. Though we have to say some of the first people in line to join the army were out-of-work sailors. See, because the British had a naval blockade on the city of Charleston, all these sailors were out of work. And the poor sailors really didn't have a choice. Join the army, starve. Deal with Army Chow, starve. Army Chow. So, a lot of them signed up to join both the 1st and 2nd regiments. Now, the rest of the captains, like Marion, he went to his home, he got all his quota in one day. Some of the others not so lucky. Now, Bernard Elliott had to go to Georgia. Gosh, that sounds like a song. Bellingham down to Georgia, Eagle and Forest Steels, way behind. No, that's something else. Anyways, I heard that somewhere around here. But he was in Georgia. He did come across this man. He wasn't necessarily playing a fiddle and playing it hot, but he was doing pretty good work. His name was William Jasper. Or I should say, Johann Jasper. He's German. Sergeant Jasper, who will be in fame down the road, was an indentured servant when he first came here to the colonies. As a young 16-year-old lad from Germany, couldn't even write his own name. The ship captain had to write it for him when he arrived in Philadelphia. He did his 5 years as an indentured servant. He moved to Georgia. So when Captain Elliott came through, picked him up, continued his recruiting. He came across another town in Georgia. A bunch of militiamen, about 20 men, really strong, charismatic leader. Big old lad. And Bernard goes up, I'm looking for men to join my regiment, and of course, he looks at Bernard Elliott and goes, why would I follow a man like you in your silk stockings? I will never follow a man that I can whip. Oh, you're challenging me to a boxing match. Why, yes I am. Now, he had to agree that if Bernard Elliott beat him and all his men have to sign up. The problem was, he didn't know that Bernard Elliott had studied at Oxford for 2 years, and yes, one of the subjects he studied was boxing. So, like a good continental officer, or soon to be, he takes off his uniform, he's all set, are you sure, you're sure, yep, pop, drops him like a bad habit. Before he came to, not only had him and all his 20 men, he made sure he was signed up as a sergeant before he was aware of what had happened. So now we have a unit. We have companies coming in. Bernard Elliott, again, he'd be the commander of the Grenadier Companies. We're the only colony who still follow the old British style of a Grenadier Company, a light company, and 8 regular line companies. So we're pulling the men in. This has been in June, going in July. Now we got to start issuing them equipment, uniforms, brand new muskets that just magically appeared, gunpowder, all these things that we need. And then we got to start working on training them. Basic drill. We used the same drill as the British did because, well, that's all we knew. So we had to teach them the 64 drill. Well, now the founding fathers, Henry Lawrence, and the rest of the state assembly is very concerned. The real governor has finally came back. Lord Campbell has finally arrived, but he's out on the Tamar. He's not anywhere on the city. No, he's not going to risk that. He's out on the British warship. We got to do something. And the biggest concern, of course, was Fort Johnson. Fort Johnson is the primary defense for the city of Charleston. Very large cannon. It had at least 6 28-pound artillery pieces, 12 18-pound, 1 6, all the heavy ammunition required for the defense of Charleston, and it was all over Fort Johnson under the caretaker of Gunner. Well, now I had my senior moment being blown up too much. With Gunner Walker had a bad day. See, in August 31st, the Liberty Boys tarred and feathered him, and then drove him all around the town in a cart and made him drink damnation to the king in front of every loyalist house. He might be a little angry at the Patriot movement at the time, and now he's over with all that artillery pointing at the city. These same guns designed to defend the city against ships can very easily be turned, fired over the river, and impact on the city. So Governor Rutledge looked to the commanders and said, we must take the fort. How are we going to do this? This is going to be our first major military operation as a South Carolina provincial force. Well, we can't walk over land because they're going to see us coming. We'll lose the element of surprise, so we're going to have to go straight across the water. Except there's 2 British warships out there, the Tamar and the Cherokee. Both of them are 16 gunners. The Tamar actually are all 6-pounders. They also had about 14 swivel guns. The Cherokee, a mix of 6 4s and 3s, all sitting out there between Charleston and where they need to go for Johnson. Well, that's easy. We'll go at night. How hard can that be? A little hint, we didn't do night operations in the 18th century. Simple reason, can't command and control. I think you just heard about what happened at a place called Camden in the dark. Proof and point. Anyways, not only are we going to be doing this at night, we're going to be doing an amphibious operation. Too bad Ed's not here. I'd love to talk about the Marines. We need Marines. So they decided they're going to select out of the 1st Regiment their Grenadier Company under Gadsden. Out of the 2nd Regiment, it's going to be their Grenadier Company under Bernard Elliott, and the Jaeger Company, or the Lights, excuse me, under Francis Marion. While Colonel Moultrie is given overall command, the assault force commander is going to be his deputy, Isaac Mount. Now we all know, okay, Grenadiers, these are the shock troops, big bruisers, men are ready to run in there, break things apart, make a hole, and charge through. If we're Europe, we're not Europe, we're South Carolina. We just formed an army, let alone trained them. The advantage they had was they were fully manned. See, one of the other advantages about Bernard Elliott, Francis Marion being kind of elite companies is they can choose from the other companies too. Like a buffet. They can go around to what the other company commanders had chosen, and if they see somebody who meets their requirements, whether it be in the Grenadiers or the Lights, they can take them. They're already fully manned. The others were not ready yet. So in the 90 operation, September 14th, they go over to Gadsden's Wharf to load 2 small schooners, the Carolina, the Georgia Packet. Get on board, they're hoping for the best, using the flow of the tides quietly to go by the Tamar and the Cherokee. And I think there's an old motto I think you use here in this more modern age: no plan ever survives first contact. And some guy named Murphy, he seemed to appear a lot, but it seemed to happen here too. Must have been his great-great-great-great-grandfather. For while they did make it past the Cherokee and Tamar, they missed their landing zone by a mile. Oh yeah. Then they hit the sandbar and got both boats stuck. All right, no problem. We'll just launch from here. They only carried one longboat apiece. So they lowered the longboats into the river. They put their muskets and powder into the boat, and they start to walk across. They're about knee deep till finally they can get the boat to flow free, and they can make the rest of the way to the landing point. They also forgot to tell them about the sharks. See, the plantations on the river like to dump their garbage there. And 2 days before they landed, a servant from the local plantations had his leg taken off by a shark attack. No one told the men this as they were wading through shark waters to get to the land. But unfortunately, it took a lot longer than they suspected. We had no good intelligence of what's going on in that fort. How many people were there? Are they ready to fight? It's a big fort. Tabby, concrete, all these guns, really could cause some damage. The sun's coming up. And only 2 companies are on board. Both Grenadier companies have landed. Isaac Mott has to make a command decision. We got to go now, even though FMarion's men are still coming ashore. We got to go now. So like a good commander, he draws a sword. He forms into 3 soft columns. We'll do this sort of textbook. And up they go. They start running up. They start charging. Hey, look, the door's open. Okay, so they walk into the fort, not necessarily charge into the fort, and they captured 5 British sailors and Gunner Walker. All the cannons have been knocked off their mounts, and all the mounts have been knocked off their firing stands. See, the governor knew that something was up. He knew all this activity, they had to do something. His biggest concern was the Patriots were going to take Fort Johnson. They followed 2 out of 3 of his orders. They forgot one detail. It's called spiking the guns. None of them were spiked. So the first thing that Colonel Mott did was get them back up. So they grabbed the tripod, block and tackle. They start moving the guns up. They're starting to get some cannon up because they still have 2 warships. They can come up and they can try to retake that fort. Well, how do we communicate with Charleston, where Governor Rutledge, Colonel Moultrie's at? How do we let them know that we have successfully completed our mission? And Moultrie had commissioned a special flag. Blue flag, silver crescent, please, crescent, not gorget, crescent. He wrote about it in his letter. That is our goal. Everyone knows about anything about military historians. It is our fight to make sure that they understand it is a crescent, not a gorget, and it's also gorget, not gorget, because gorget is what you eat with fish. But you notice, crescent. And it's because this goes back to the Anglo-Cherokee War when Moultrie was with Middleton's regiment. The color of our uniforms and the crescent that was on our original helmets. That was the signal. So, as soon as the fort's secured, they run the flag up. It is the first time a national flag is flown in front of an adversary. And they see the fact across the way that we have safely taken the fort. On the Tamar, on the other hand, the royal governor's like, that doesn't look good. Secretary, go find out what's going on. He didn't go, but he did send his secretary. So as they're rowing towards the shore, Gadsden meets them at the shoreline with his grenadiers, just in case they're thinking about landing. And the secretary yells across, "Who dare takes my fort? What soldiers are in there?" And Gadsden, being a man of few words, simply replied, "Americans." And we had secured our first fort. Our first true victory in the war. I guess the rest I have to cover next year as we proceed into 1776. If anyone has any questions, I am willing to take them. No.
Would you explain your symbols of rank.
So I'm actually not arrayed as a captain. I'm actually a colonel in this. As a field grade officer, this is where the gorgets come in. This is why I always like to tell people, it's, you know, what's on the flag, because every country around the world, every field grade officer has a gorget, but only South Carolinians had crescents. My lieutenant does not wear one. The ranks and the way they actually work is depending on the shoulders. A lieutenant will have one on the right side. Then he gets promoted to first lieutenant, it goes on the other side. Then captain, major, they change to gold, and then they work their way up. I wear a maroon sash, and like all good captains or higher, I have a feather in my cap. Thus the reason why you might have heard the song. They stuck a feather in his cap and called it macaroni. They're making fun of the fact that a lot of officers wore feathers in their caps. But that's how our rank works. The epaulets would just keep going back and forth. Majors, lieutenant colonel would be gold. Silvers would go up for the colonels. Generals, whole brand new uniform. They can afford it. Not as other officers. I'd also have a stupid stick if I need to. A spontoon in the early days. Any other questions? Sir?
So, did the British eventually evacuate Charleston?
Actually, there wasn't much of a garrison. In fact, there was no garrison. And later on, later in the year, we still had the very big Cochrane's powder magazine in the middle of the city. It had up to 11,000 pounds of gunpowder. They decided that we need to get that and the important papers out of Charleston because they were afraid that the British were going to land a raiding party, get through the city and light it off. So they moved it to Dorchester. There was no garrison, just 2 naval warships. So they're always constantly watching of a naval expedition coming down to retake Charleston beginning in the end of, or about the 75. There was no garrison. Any others? Also, another quick, I guess, PSA. So you heard about Marion's papers. I'm helping out the SC-250 as well. I need something to do. I already finished up my book. So they asked me, hey, would I mind doing the regimental history in the 2nd Regiment? It's done. It's in the queue right now. It will be published. It's going to be the same thing, free to download, which is I recommend because it's about 900 pages. I dug. And it's the whole history of the regiment, from how the uniform was created, the drill, the discipline, this place called the Hole. Boy, we had a lot of troublemakers in this regiment. That's well because they're hard drinkers. And every soldier who served in the regiment, from the colonel down to the private whose last name begins with Y. I have paintings, I have photos, I have markers, and I also have photos of their enlistment records. I know you folks in the SAR, DAR are always looking for references. All that is available in the regiment. And then I'm getting ready to start the next one. Which will be on the 1st regiment. With the government situation, we're supposed to have the 250th at the siege of 96, the weekend after. I don't know yet. I haven't heard anything. Us as from the reenacting community, we're ready to go. Like we say, we always have our hatchets scoured in 60 rounds, all set. As soon as we hear we can go, we're going. If not, but we will have our event in Camden.
Thank you.
Sir.
Hard copy yet?
What's that?
The 2nd Regiment book.
Yep.
Is it in hard copy yet?
Not yet. It is still one of the 10, because I know Charles put that out as well, that just like everything else we print digital, they want hard copy because he also wants them in the schools.
But it's coming.
It's coming, yes sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.